And so for those of you who are here for part one, I'm glad that you're back here again. So kudos to you for coming and getting some value. And so we have a great panel for you today. And so just like we did last time, I'm really going to take the time to walk you through, give you some information just about SNMA so that we all can be on the same page, to get you thinking a little bit about what mentorship looks like, and so that you can start to formulate some questions for our panel, again, just so that you get all of the gems that you came for. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so just like last time, so everybody knows, this is a safe space. So whether you come from a university or institution that you don't feel valued, we want you to know that you are safe here. There is no silly question. We're happy to have you. And so I want you to feel comfortable being here and asking any questions. Okay. So for those of you who this is your first time, I want to two things. One, I want to point you to the QR code in the very top of the panel. So just so at any given point in time, you can give us feedback on how you feel like this is going. So if you pull open your phone, go to, like, as if you're taking a photo and just scan it right there, you'll be able to get right there to give feedback. So just want to give everybody a brief overview of the series. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to increase your awareness of research. We want to help you identify opportunities for research. And then we want to provide you with tools to successfully design, execute, and present those research findings. So again, this is a 5-part series. This is part 2, and we will be talking about mentor and mentee relationships. Okay, so just wanted to post this again. So we do this every third Thursday, of the month. And so our next webinar is going to be how to read an academic paper. So anybody who's struggling with that, we'll be walking you through that. Okay. Then I just want to take again to a point to just tell you guys about the Wilbert C. Jordan Research Forum. And so for those of you who are looking for a safe place for you to present some research or have really gained a lot from this and want to try your hand at presenting, there's an opportunity here for you to do that. It really just is an opportunity, again, for you to show your scientific competence, and you'll get rewarded by doing that. And so it's open to all SNMA student members. You just have to have completed the research prior to or during medical school. And so a great opportunity for you to get in front of people and talk about your research. It'll be presented at the annual medical education conference that SNMA has every year. And so at the very bottom, you can see the type of abstracts and posters that get accepted there. So definitely a wonderful opportunity for you to really differentiate yourself from some of your peers who are either applying to medical school or applying to residency. Okay. So format of the series, for those of you who know, so a lecture style, first 30 minutes, I'm going to give you guys some information just to kind of level set. So I know we have some medical students here, some people from undergrad, as well as those from high school. So just giving you some information so that you can take notes, and then we'll have our wonderful panel you can ask questions, and they kind of have some of those questions that you guys already posted. And again, all presentations will be recorded. Okay. So mentor-mentee relationships. So main 3 things that we were getting questions about. So 1, how to find contacted PI, especially in the era of COVID. Expectation setting, right? Are you going to do all the work for your PI and get nothing in return? So how do you navigate that? And then how to ask for a letter of recommendation. And you're not asking for just any letter of recommendation. You want a strong letter of recommendation. And so talking about what that looks like and why that's important for you, wherever you're trying to get to for your next step. Okay. So for those of you who are in medical school, you're very familiar with learning objectives. For those of you who aren't, learning objectives are what the lecturer hopes to accomplish or hopes for you to walk away by the end of this talk. So 1, I want you to be able to identify strong qualities in a mentor-mentee relationship. And I want you to gain tools to make it a mutually beneficial relationship so that you are helping your mentor grow in a way or helping them with some work, and that you are gaining also as well from that relationship. Strategies on how to initiate this approach. So, how to cold email a potential mentor and what things to say. We're setting expectations on what you can gain from working with that mentor. And then lastly, again, understanding of how to ask a mentor for, again, a strong letter of recommendation, whether that's for residency, medical school, wherever that may be for you. Okay. And so I just want to do a homework check-in. So for those of you who are here, I always want to give you guys homework or things to walk away from. And so this is just a check-in. I'm hoping that you all now have an area of research that you're interested in from our last talk, that you have a project schedule that you begin to think about so that you can apply that to today's panel, and that you begin at least thinking about what type of research mentor, what you're looking for in that, what you're hoping to gain from that relationship. And that's really going to help you as we navigate through today's webinar series. Okay, so what is mentoring? So I'm sure all of you are kind of like, well, duh, we already know what that is. Okay, fine. But I want to highlight a couple of 4 main things. So it's supposed to be a personal and reciprocal relationship, okay? So this idea that you don't want to just find somebody who you think is a research expert, and then when people ask them about you, they can't say anything positive, right? So you want to make sure that you're gaining and getting to know them a little bit on a personal level again, so that they can talk strongly about you in either this letter of recommendation or to other people that they've come into contact with. You want somebody who's going to provide you with guidance, role modeling, and teaching. And again, not just telling you what to do, but helping you walk through some of your interests, as well as some interests that they may have for you as well. You want to gain knowledge and support, but also help in finding challenges and allowing you an opportunity to navigate those yourself without, again, just telling you how to do it. And then lastly, at the end of the relationship or throughout the relationship, you're hopefully getting closer to your pursuit of becoming a member of their profession. So whether that's a PhD program, an MD program, we really hope that that they're giving you value to help you get to where you see yourself. Okay. And so just wanted to point out the difference here. So while you're thinking about this relationship, you're thinking about, okay, do I want to be an expert in this relationship? Do I want my mentor to be an expert? So the differences between that is, okay, I already know everything that I need to know, right? I'm coming in with the mindset that I can't gain anything. I'm just doing this as a formality. Or I'm working with a mentor who just wants me to work in their lab, do the work for them, and I'm going to walk away with what? I can say I worked in a wonderful lab, but I mean, what do you hope to gain from it? Do you want to be asking questions? Do you want them to ask you questions, engage with you? Or do you want your mentor to give you answers to questions that you have? Do you want to be able to work through things and then ask them for guidance once you hit the end of the road? So again, just things for you to be thinking about as you're trying to establish this relationship. So mutual learning. You want a mentor who's going to support you, and again, a learner directed project. You want them to help push you to make your own self-exploration of a topic and can help you come up with conclusions, right? And so if your end goal is a residency program, or if your end goal is a medical school, to get into medical school, when someone asks you about the research you did, you want to be able to talk about it, not just because you're passionate about it. You want to be able to highlight it in a way that they really see that you really gain something from that, and not just working in a lab, okay? You want somebody who's going to encourage you to reflect on the practice that you're making. So did you learn something about yourself as you went through this? Did you learn how to deal with difficult people? Did you make a discovery as you were doing this? And it didn't have to be like a huge medical discovery. It could be a discovery within yourself. Again, always trying to get better. And then are they encouraging you to develop lifelong learning skills? So in every opportunity that you have, you want to gain something from it that's going to help push you to just be better in general, a better researcher, a better medical student, a better undergrad student, whatever that may be. Again, looking for all opportunities to be better. So just in my personal opinion, right, the type of mentor you don't want. So you may have someone who has a wonderful NIH lab, but they rarely make time to teach. They have lots of students in their lab. They don't know your name. And then you ask them for a letter at the end, and all they can say is, oh, well, yes, Whitney worked with us for 2 years. She did electrophoresis, and that is Whitney. What did you gain from that? What do you hope to walk away from that with? Again, the researcher who says, all right, I don't necessarily know what your interests are, but I have the perfect project for you. Well, okay, well, how do you know what the perfect project for me is if you don't know what my interests are? So again, just these key things for you not to walk into something that you may not gain from it. And then, also navigating this power differential and this idea that, okay, they're the researchers, they have all the knowledge. And if this is what they say, then do I need to do this? And again, just trying to help you guys get into something that you're passionate about and that you don't regret later on. Somebody who wants to perfect your strengths versus explore your weaknesses. Okay. So this idea of, okay, you are really, really strong in this part of lab work, right? Where's the room for growth? You want to challenge yourself to work on these weaknesses so that when, again, you can become a more well-rounded researcher, well-rounded person. And then lastly, excuse my typo, but they know everything. I'm sure our panelists will tell you that no matter where you are on this journey, you will never know everything. And so when you have that type of attitude, someone who doesn't think that they can learn from you, it really just takes away from the relationship. Okay. And so I just want you, these are the kind of these people who have an air about them that make it really difficult for you to gain what you're hoping to gain from that. So let's talk about your goals. Okay. Be real with yourself. So what do you really want to do this research? Do you want to gain information about a topic? You're going to find a certain mentor for that. Are you hoping to stand out in your medical school and residency application? So you're trying to say, okay, I have some research. This is going to help set me apart from my peers who are also applying to this school because they're a research institution and I need to have this research. Like, okay. So if that's your goal, what type of mentor do you need to help get you to that goal? Again, is it to publish? Do you want to be a first author on some type of paper? Do you want to be a second or third? And so just saying those type of things are already going to kind of group mentors for you. For example, if you're hoping to gain basic knowledge about research, you are brand new, don't know what you're doing, and then you reach out to someone with an NIH lab, hundreds of students, they're churning out research. The skills that you have kind of are going to help navigate you to get where you want to get to. Again, if you're hoping to gain skills about basic research and you're going to somebody who's at the top of their field, they may expect you to come in with certain things because that's what they do. Again, these are general topics. Our panelists aren't like this, but my personal experience, when I asked somebody in an NIH lab, they expected me to have 10 years of experience when I was 20 years old. And I didn't, and so you just wonder, how am I supposed to have 10 years of experience? I'm 20, I'm coming to you with this. And so how to navigate people who expect you to have a lot of experience without giving you, when you haven't had as many opportunities as others, okay? And if you hope to publish, right? And God bless your mentor who has never conducted research, never wrote a paper, and has no grants, okay? And so this idea of, all right, you can work through it together, but if you have a limited amount of time and you have an end goal, we have to be realistic at some point here. Are you really going to get the paper that you want from that? Again, just being realistic, just giving y'all some gems here. I'm not going to say that any of y'all have gotten stuck in this cycle, but I can raise my hand and tell you that I have joined a project, hoped to get a paper out of it, and then I didn't get what I wanted to get where I wanted to because the mentor and I were over ambitious. Okay. And so I'm just trying to save y'all some of the heartache. You're welcome. It's free. I'm going to charge y'all one day. Anyways, so you want to leverage your networks, okay? So you may be at a school in which you have a lot of academic faculty, right? They're everywhere. You may not want to get in their particular lab, but if you're fortunate enough to be able to at least reach out to them and say, hey, I have an interest in this. I was wondering if you'd be able to leverage your contacts. You never know who someone knows, okay? And so also always carry yourself with a little bit of air about you so that people know that you mean business, right? And so when you're talking to your academic faculty, they already know that if they forward your name to someone, that they feel confident that you're gonna be a great student for that lab, okay? And I'll tell you, especially if you're in medical school now, this is a wonderful way for you to find mentors because, again, your faculty know people. And so you don't want your faculty member to tell you that they don't have any colleagues when they have plenty of colleagues. So again, you want to make sure that you present yourself in a good way in which they want to connect you. So a gem that I got, and I wanted to put this here. So my physician, right, or your physician. I think your personal physician is overlooked, and I know that this is, this could be, people have opinions about this. I have found that my physician, even though they didn't have the research background that I wanted, they went to medical school with somebody who was presenting research somewhere else. And so, this is a quick conversation for me. Hey, as you're inspecting, my musculoskeletal system, can we talk about some research I'm interested in? Do you know anybody who's interested in this? Can you forward my resume to somebody? I mean, you have if they're a pediatrician, they go to pediatric conferences all the time. They know somebody. So again, if you're starting at the very bottom, wherever you're starting, you want to expand your network as fast as you can, and as wide as you can. Because again, you just never know who you're going to capture. And then lastly, if it comes down to it and we're at a cold email, you don't know who this person is, and you are kind of reaching out to the lab, I'm hoping to be able to give you some sauce to help you be able to make that connection, okay? And again, we're in this era where the internet can connect you with people all over the world, right? And especially in Zoom, they have been lifting requirements. Hospitals are allowing people to, well, some hospitals, I'll say, are allowing people to do work remotely. And so hopefully I'm hoping that we can help give you some information to help you connect. But I will say that if you are going to do number 3, persistence is going to be key. And knowing the balance between annoying and persistent, okay? So first thing, before you get started with this, you really want to update your resume and your LinkedIn. Before you go to your faculty member and tell them that you are hoping that they will connect you with somebody, and they say, great, send me your resume. And now you're looking because you haven't updated your resume in a while. These are things that I'm hoping that you will think about before you do that. So on your resume, again, talk about your education. Talk about any academic achievements that you've had so far, anything that's going to set you apart from anybody else who's also cold emailing them in the time of COVID. If you haven't graduated, put your intended date. That's something that let them know that you're in school, right? That you have some type of skills. If you're not in school, you are intending to go to school. We may need to talk about that. But if you're in school right now, write your education. Have you taken any relevant classes? Right? So you're reaching out and you want to get in someone's lab and they do a lot of epidemiological work. I took intro to epidemiology. I have some type of background in this information that you have, and I'm not starting from scratch. And though I may not be where your other researchers are, I work hard and I have some skills in this, and I want you to know that. I honestly even said biochemistry. I don't know how far that got me, but I wanted them to know that I was challenging myself in these classes. I wasn't just taking easy classes. Neurology, advanced chemistry, whatever that may be, you want to highlight yourself because they need you, right? Just as, you may need them more, but they need you, okay? What relevant skills do you have? I pointed out some lab skills, but something that is of value, if you are a medical scribe and a medical assistant, I would flip that. That means that you have skills working with patients. You can critically think about things. You have experience with electronic health records. You can take whatever you gained in that and flip that right on its head, and you come off as the best researcher they've ever had because you have personal skills that you can bring that are relevant no matter what field that you're going into, okay? And then what interests do you have? And so these are things that you should be thinking about before. What do you want to gain more knowledge in? People, they want to hear that. Okay. All right. So what y'all been waiting for? This cold email content. Okay. And we're working to put together an actual template for you to be able to walk through and send this out to as many people as possible. But I want to give more opinions, not just a few people. Okay. So education experiences. What year are you? If you're a medical student, there are people who are dying to get you in their lab to talk to you because you have already gotten yourself into a place where so few people make it, right? I know if you're an undergrad, it's a little harder, and I can try to help walk you through that. But if you are a medical student, you want to put that right up in center. Hi, my name is Whitney Nichols. I am a second-year medical student at XYZ University. Boom. They are going to at least open your email and hear what school you go to. They may not get past that, but they're going to look to see what year you are and what school you went to. And any experiences that are relevant to them, help them connect the dots. Again, if you worked in a research lab before, I'm putting that right up there in the front so that they're already knowing, okay, you already have quite a few people who email you, but you don't have me because I have skills that people who are emailing you do not have. What shared experiences do you have? Did y'all go to the same school? If I went to the University of Virginia, if I see that anybody did their training at the University of Virginia, I am typing University of Virginia, wahoo wah. I also did my training here because they are seeing something they recognize. Okay, I love my university. Therefore, if my university graduated this person, I now put them in a special category of people. What are you passionate about? If you're passionate about breast cancer, even more specific, if you're passionate about Black women and breast cancer, I'm putting that right up the front. I know that your research lab talks about breast cancer and Black women, and I'm interested and passionate about this. This is why I'm passionate about it. And then also you want to name drop. If I know Dr. Yeckel went to Yale, I am saying I am a student of Dr. Mark Yeckel, and I'm letting Dr. Yeckel know I'm doing this, so that if this person comes and emails him and says, "Hey, Dr. Yeckel, a student emailed you," I want him to respond back favorably in my favor. Again, I put 2 stars here. Do research on them before you email them. Did they publish? Researchers are the most confident people I've ever met in my life. They want to be validated by you emailing them. If they just published the paper, talk about their paper. Congratulations, I saw that your paper was published, and it doesn't matter if you know the journal. Just know that you have some points that you read from that you can put in this email. If you watched one of their research talks, put that in there too. You had a wonderful TED Talk. I enjoyed it. I watched it all through. And if you say that, you need to be able to back it up. Because if they ask you about something that in that TED Talk, you need to say that you watched it, and you need to know that you did that. And then show familiarity with their projects. And then lastly, talk about your goal. Now, I wouldn't tell you to up front if you really want to publish. I don't know if that's in the first meeting. Again, I kind of save that for a person-to-person meeting. But if you want to gain knowledge, and I'm a medical student, I know that this information is very important for me. It's important for patient care. I want to be an excellent physician. And as I transition into this, I think that your lab would provide me with experience in order for me to enhance patient care. Boom. That right there says something, because you've thought about what you hope to gain from this experience with them. I hope this is making sense for y'all. Again, just wanted to put yourself in a light in which they read this email and that they're thinking about how they're going to respond to you and how they're going to get you in their lab. That's what you really want them to do at the end of the day. So I know I didn't put this in the learning objective, but I just want to give y'all a gem. I'm hoping that y'all at least screenshot this. Something to get past the awkwardness. So I talked about not just are some researchers confident, they also can be awkward, okay? And I want to keep it honest with you. And so if you're going into a situation in which you're talking to a researcher and you both feel awkward, how do you navigate that? And so something that I always did, I asked them something that relaxed both of us. So how are you doing? How's the weather there? If they give you a dry response, you already know how it's going to go. You keep to yourself. You keep pushing through. Because again, this is about you. It's not about them. This is your opportunity to really get a foot in the door, and then kick the door down the rest of the way. Okay. Again, prepare to tell them who you are. They're going to ask you who you are. You should have your 5-minute elevator speech already. Your name, where you're from, what you hope to gain from this, your institution, all of that. Because they're not going to waste time with you. That's the first thing you come in there and tell them. And so in there should be your highlighting your passions, any education that you have, interests and skills. Why did you contact them? As a medical student, I'm hoping to develop my skills around patient care. I have interest in neurosurgery. I'd like to explore more. Okay, that's great. But why them? Why did you choose them to want to reach out to them? Are they working with special neurons that you're interested in? I'm putting that in there. Because are you interested in how Yale does and operates certain things? I'm interested in the collegiality at Yale. I'm interested in the neurons that you're working with. I know that you specifically can help me reach my goal. And it doesn't matter how many emails you send, you want every person who reads this email to feel like you only sent it to them. Okay, that's what you want them to walk away from. And then just other gems for topics you can talk about. What excites them about the research? What impact does it have on patient care? Keep bringing up patient care. If they're a PhD, I don't know what to tell you. But if they're an MD, they care about patient care. Okay, I'm just kidding. Dr. Yackel's a PhD. Anyways, and where do they see the field going in the next 5 years? People love to tell you where the field is going the next 5 years. It's like they have it on the top of their head. So you get there and you get them going. It doesn't matter how strange a person is. If they're excited about their research, they will tell you where the field is going the next 5 years. And because you were interested in it, that will stick with them. Okay. And so here, I just want to talk to you about a compact. And I'm running out of time, so I want to give you time for our panel. But a compact of what you will do as a mentee, and then hopefully what you hope to gain from your mentor, right? So you are going to complete your assignments. You're going to keep them informed of your updates. And as a mentor, you are hoping that they will provide you with opportunities for self-exploration. And you're hoping that they will provide you with opportunities to present and publish data if that is what you're interested in, okay? Y'all don't become a part of a research lab in which you're doing all the work and they don't put you on the paper, okay? Listen to me. If they don't, make sure they put you on that paper, okay? And I know that doesn't make sense to all y'all now, but just keep that in the back of your head because that's a gem. And then asking for this letter, okay? Keep a record of activities. I have found that mentors like to forget at the end of your year what you worked on. Don't worry, I have a list of things I've worked on for you so that we can start to talk about incorporating some of that in this letter of recommendation that's going to be strong for you, okay? Thinking about the time frame. Again, you want to make a lasting impression. Stay engaged even after you get the letter of recommendation. You never know who people know. And again, don't just ask for a regular recommendation, y'all. Use the word strong. If your mentor does not feel like they can write about your strong experience with them, don't have them write it, because the worst thing that you can have is for a residency application or a medical school application, information that doesn't match who you are or match your application. Okay, it's a turn off. It just seems like where's the disconnect? Okay, we don't want any disconnects. We want strong letters. And so, as always, I gave you guys some homework. Again, by the next webinar series, you should have solidified your area of research. I want you to begin to finalize your project schedule. Even if it's not an outline project, I need you to tell me how long you have to do research. If you're a medical student, if you're going and transitioning in your first year, you have a summer and you want to get this done in the summer, you have 8 weeks or 10, depending on your school. I want to get it all done in 10 weeks. Okay, that's what I'm coming up front and saying I have 10 weeks, so that your mentor doesn't think you have 2 years to dedicate to this. Be honest about your time. And then I want all of you to start looking at PubMed, clinical key research. I want you to start thinking about these things so that when we have our next webinar series, you don't get lost in the sauce, okay? So again, just trying to provide y'all with value and helping you to gain some things first, all right? And so without further ado, I just want to tell y'all what the upcoming months are. Reading academic papers is going to be fire. I know that it's helpful for no matter who you are, and I don't want any of you guys to leave this without knowing how to read an academic paper, at least to get some gems from it, okay? So with that, I will turn it over. Thank you all so much. If y'all have questions, drop them in the chat. And for that, I will turn it over to Alex to introduce our wonderful panel, okay?
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Whitney. I'm going to actually go ahead and make you host now, okay? So let me just do that here. And then, all right. So thank you to our amazing panel for being here. We're so excited to have you guys. We're going to have a great time. We have some great questions. And so I'm going to start without further ado. We have Dr. Otunye Sengunro. She's an assistant professor of general surgery and at the Frank H. Nether School of Medicine. And then we have Dr. Mark Yeckel, the associate dean and chair of admissions and associate professor at Frank H. School of Medicine. And then we have Zali White, who is an MD PhD candidate. He's in his 7th year. He's at the University of Virginia School of Medicine. We have Tiara Nisha Jackson. She's an MD candidate. She also has a master's degree as well. And she's at the University of Illinois College of Medicine. And then we have Santonye Douglas, who's an MD candidate at Frank H. Nether School of Medicine. And we're super excited to have you guys, okay? So the first way we like to start this off is we really just want you guys to talk about your journey into medicine, what you're currently doing in research, and just kind of talk about yourself, because we really believe that journeys are important here. So I'm actually gonna start with Dr. Sengunro.
Actually, Dr. Sengunro, before you go, I just wanted to tell y'all that the panel was very modest with their bios. One, Dr. Sengunro is not just a general surgeon. Was that trauma care? Am I correct in that?
Trauma surgeon. Yeah.
Trauma surgeon. So how many Black trauma surgeons do y'all know? I'll wait. Okay. Not just is she is also willing to help and mentor students. So I just wanted to be very clear with that. Dr. Yeckel, not only is he a wonderful ally, he came from Yale. He's working as a dean in admissions. He's very much so trying to help create diversity in the medical field. They didn't say that. Zali not only is a 6-year MD PhD candidate, he just has a beautiful 10-month-old son. And so not only is he MD PhD candidate, but he's out also balancing a lot of different things going on. Tiara as an MPH and also has been working. I know a lot of you want to know what to do with the MPH degree, and so we got Tiara on this. And then Santonye, if y'all don't know about Santonye, I need y'all to Google her. Not only has she been featured in the Humans of New York, my girl has been featured in Forbes now. And so it's honestly an honor to have her be able to talk to y'all before she pops up for 30 under 30, okay? And so we didn't have to pay her to come. And so y'all are getting free gems from her now before people have to pay her to speak, okay? So I just wanted y'all to know who was on this panel so that y'all put respect on their name, but also that you know that we did not just pick anybody, okay? So I need y'all to be taking your notes out. Note takers are money makers, okay? So I really, really, really want y'all to gain experience, and I want y'all to gain what y'all came from, okay? So I'm so sorry, Dr. Segura. I had to be very clear and let everybody know what's going on.
No problem, Whitney. And I think one thing that you have to recognize is don't forget to give yourself some of the credit, because we've emailed a couple times, but I sat here and you have me taking notes on your presentation. At some point, I don't know if you saw me take my phone camera out. I was like, I hope she can't see me, but I'm just going to take some snapshots. So definitely give yourself a pat on the back. And coming up with this panel, I think, is absolutely fantastic. And I've shared that with you already. And I definitely hope we continue to kind of work even past this panel today. So like Whitney said, my name is Dr. Segundro. My first name is Olutayo. And I'm Nigerian by ethnicity. I was born in Nigeria, grew up actually in New Britain, Connecticut, here in CT. I'm currently, my full-time job is I'm a trauma surgeon at St. Vincent's Hospital in Bridgeport, where that's one of the major teaching hospitals for QU, the Frank Netter School of Medicine. So you guys will see me when you do your third-year rotations in surgery. I'll be one of your main surgeons that you'll rotate through. So that's kind of what my main job is. I do trauma surgery. I'm a board-certified general surgeon, so I do pretty much everything, like I tell people, from your mouth to your butt. I do a lot of gastrointestinal surgery. And with the trauma aspect of my job, you know, as you guys, especially the QU students that live in, you know, this area, you know, Bridgeport is one of the more urban cities in Connecticut, the largest one in Connecticut. And so usually I'm pretty busy at work with Bridgeport. So, but I do love what I do. But the biggest passion for me is in education. Particularly with teaching and research. So I was absolutely delighted when I was asked to come on the panel. Just kind of giving maybe like 2 or 3 key points to what kind of piggybacking on what Whitney said is I think research is absolutely important. I know the audience here consists not just of medical students, but also of high school students and some college students. But one thing that I wanted to kind of let you know is that research, a lot of times people think is just related to bench research. So some of the things that you mentioned, Whitney, you referred to some research in the NIH and a lot of work that can be clinical, bench, or a mix of the two. But as a medical student, because I've been there too, it's not very easy to be able to balance both that research aspect and your clinical work. So one of the things that I always actually let my students who rotate with me know is doing a case report, okay? On an interesting case, something that you saw with, you know, a surgeon or any physician, anyone that you saw, is actually a research as well, right? It's not bench research or original research as people, as we usually think of when we're reading about a new study that looked at this or looked at that. But remember, if you want to be able to have something on your resume, research is very important to get into very competitive specialties, right? And one of the ways that you can do that is doing good case reports. Case reports don't take a lot of time to do. You link up with a physician that you saw the case with, or maybe even a resident physician, and you can get a case report written and done in like a week. Okay, a good one if you dedicate a good amount of time. It may take a little bit longer, but those are things that you can do. And they still take in a lot of the same principles of doing a literature search, right? Doing it like an actual PubMed literature search. That's included in your case report as well, because that's what's gonna really populate a lot of your background in your discussion session, right? You're gonna be reviewing the current studies that have been out there, which may be original work and other case reports, but also some bench work as well. So don't sleep on that, basically, is one thing that I let people know, especially when you're in your 3rd and 4th years and even your 2nd year. Doing case reports works well. You can do posters, you can present them. I've won competitions. I've won like a lot of money for even just case reports. I've done a lot of original research as well, but case reports is something that as a clinician is really important to do too. My research, I've done research in breast cancer, looking at really breast cancer imaging. That's one of the passions of mine. So I've looked at comparing kind of our typical mammogram, MRI, ultrasound, and comparing them to the accuracy of the actual final pathology. So after you actually do the surgery, what was the size on the actual final staging versus what you did staging preoperatively based on imaging. So that was one of my big things that I did during training. I've also done a lot of research in the education area as well. I don't want to take up everyone's time, so I'm going to just move on to my second point. You talked a lot about mentorship also in your presentation, which I think was fantastic. One of the things that I think that it's important for people to recognize too is there's another level to mentorship. There's actually something called sponsorship. And a lot of people don't even realize this. So you have mentorship and you have sponsorship. And mentorship, basically, that's a trusted advisor who is going to help you with some general things, right? It could be someone in the same field that you want to go to, and they'll generally advise you on things, okay? But a sponsor is going to advocate for you, okay? A mentor will advise you, a sponsor will advocate for you, and with the sponsor, you're almost like a protege to them. Usually with the sponsor, it's someone that has, that has a, pretty solidified position of power in a, hospital, workplace, wherever it is. And that person is literally going to appoint you to the chairs. They're going to appoint you to the jobs, right? They're going to put your name in the hat. Before you ask them for a letter of recommendation, your sponsor has already put your name in the running for a position, okay? So this is something that I'm not going to spend the whole time talking about, but I love to talk about these kind of things. I think they're so important. And until I was in my late 20s, did not realize what that difference was. I thought a mentorship was the end all be all, right? You have to have a good mentor. But the difference between a mentor and a sponsor is you can look for a mentor, the sponsor usually finds you. So on another time, I'd love to talk to you guys about that some more. And I'll actually share with Whitney, I can do it by email. I actually did a blog post about mentorship versus sponsorship and how they're both important. So I'll definitely send that to you, and it has some additional resources. But I think when it comes to professional development and leadership, that's really important for people to understand. A lot of people don't even realize that there's a thing called a sponsor, right? So it's important to differentiate between those two and also have both of them. And then the third thing that I wanted to just kind of plug in real quick is I think with the times of COVID, you're absolutely correct, right? The whole world is different, right? It's a new normal. Things are never going to get back to 100% what we were doing before. So we have to pivot, right? As the world has to pivot, but especially in academia and, future doctors, future researchers, whatever it is that you're looking towards becoming, we have to pivot. So I'm going to just kind of talk a little bit about, you see my name here says the Do Influence. But one of the big things that I would love for you guys to do is check out, it's an educational platform that I started a few months ago. It's been a while in the workings. It just kind of came into fruition a few months ago when I was in the COVID unit. I said, I'm just going to put this online because we have to pivot and make things available to people online instead of the in-person things that I was doing. But with the Do Influence, it's an educational platform. It's for students of all ages, mostly that high school, college, and young professionals. So, medical students and people in their young professional careers. And we have professionals from all different aspects. Majority of them right now are medical because that's, majority of who I know and the field that I'm in. But we have law and a lot of different other careers that basically these people who right now are all my friends that love me a lot apparently to do all the things I ask them to do, have also signed up to be mentors, right? So you talked about people looking for mentors. These people, check out the website, especially under medicine. There are different specialties, different areas, and these people have also signed up to be mentors. So if that's something that you're looking for, either communicate through Whitney or myself, but I can definitely help you on that, taking those first steps. I will email the two of you and say, hey, introduce you, and it's you've gotten rid of some of that awkwardness. I'll take it on for you. Okay. So I just wanted to put that resource out there for you. There's a lot more than just mentorship and things along the website. There's professional development and education, but I'm not going to spend much time at the panel talking about that. At the end, if people have some specific questions, I would love to go over that, but I want to give the other panelists some time to talk. I hope that's kind of what you were looking for, Whitney. I didn't know if there was some other things you wanted me to hit. Okay, all right.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Seguno. That was
You're welcome.
amazing. Wow. All right, so I'm going to have Dr. Yeckel go next.
Okay. At first, I'm blown away. I wish I had seen this when I was just a kid. You know, Whitney is a hard act to follow. Listen to her. Watch this again. Listen to her. And Dr. Seguno, that's incredible. Sponsorship is so important, and setting up mentors is incredibly important. So, you know, this is very impressive. A little bit about me. So before going to help set up this med school, and I was a professor at Yale for 11 years. I ran a big lab. I had undergrads, grads, postdocs, fellows, you know, in my lab. And so I've mentored a lot of people. Also, when I was at Yale, I was on the interdepartmental neuroscience executive board and admissions committee, and also as a counselor. So I would talk to students who were in other labs and provide advice when they were struggling with their mentors. And to go back, I grew up in San Diego. I went to University of California, San Diego. I dropped out of school for 3 years. I wasn't a very good student. I had to grow up. I learned how to be a good student. And then I went to work specifically with a man who was using super fancy signal processing techniques to try to understand the brain. And that's what I did for the next 25, 30 years, including at my lab at Yale. Now my mentoring is a little different. I actually end up mentoring a lot of pre-med students who contact me, and I want to, you know, help them to navigate, especially if they don't have the resources. And I think it's just super important, and I'm very passionate about it. And as Whitney said, I'm super passionate about bringing diversity to medicine. I think it's hugely important. So mentoring, you know, again, Whitney and Dr. Seguno covered a lot of bases. You know, there are simple things too. And what makes me think this, they're both, the first time I met Whitney and the first time I met Satonia, and I'm sure they remember, but first impressions are important. Whitney, it was a snowy day. She came in the wrong door. It was locked, and I opened it. And as you can imagine, Whitney makes an impression. And it was fantastic. And then Satonia I met in San Francisco at an SNMA conference. And another student brought her up to me, and Satonia was just so together. And then she applied, and it's important. And you know, when Whitney interviewed, at the end of the day, I just, you know, from that first moment, I like this woman. She is not going to be held back. And Satonia too, you know, and we talked a little bit about her path, and it was incredibly impressive. And I can say they have never disappointed me. They are incredible. And I'm not just saying that. So first impressions are important. And, you know, in email, a lot of times I've gotten hundreds of emails from people asking to work in my lab, and it's important to be appropriately persistent. Whitney said pretty much everything. You know, you got to do your homework and understand what the lab's about, and try to get your foot in the door, and then try to figure out if this is a place where you could be successful and happy. So be appropriately persistent. And I would get hundreds of these emails, and you know, sometimes I don't answer. So you try again. And I just think it's super important, and COVID complicated things. You know, letters, I think it's important. Letters are kind of they're a product of the mentorship, and they're really important. And I've read thousands and I've written hundreds, and it's really important to kind of prove yourself to somebody, be professional, on time, a good colleague, and hopefully the person knows how to write a letter. Not everybody does, actually. And, there are different ways people write letters. Unfortunately, some people just don't care. And, choosing who you work with is really important. You could work with a big name who might help you to network. They might not, but their letter might not get you anywhere. And I always think of this example. I know a Nobel Prize winner. I know a couple, no big deal. And he wrote the same letter, I should say, give the gender, cut and paste the same letter for two different people and just change their names. And of course, I pay attention to these things because I know him and he's a Nobel Prize winner. And sometimes it can backfire. And I just think it's really important to get to know somebody, have a sense for who they are, and hopefully they can get to know you. And one thing I always do with my letters is I write an anecdote about the person just to show that I know them. And you have to be a little bit careful. It's totally reasonable to ask, can you write me a strong letter? But you can't really tell somebody how to write the letter. I think some people might want your CV or resume or your accomplishments, and that's totally fine too. But you just don't say, can you put this in there? You just got to hope that they know what they're doing. Mentors can be with you for your professional lifetime. And it's just so important to find them. And I was never good at this. I didn't really find mentors. Well, I had my PhD mentor, and my postdoc mentor really wasn't much of a mentor. But otherwise, I didn't really find a mentor until I was a full professor, and and I was 50 years old. But when I did, it's been so useful for me. It's been so incredibly helpful. And I always tell pre-meds, find mentors, and you've got to put some effort into it. Hopefully it's an organic process where you can meet them, you can kind of get to know each other, but go out and spend the time, because I think it's really valuable for you, but also for the mentor. I love being a mentor. It makes me incredibly happy to see my mentees be successful. And I'm old, I've been around it long enough so that my mentees have their mentees, some of whom are like our medical students, and that's awesome. I feel like a grandparent or something. But it's just an invaluable process. We can talk about nuts and bolts stuff, but just, if you don't do anything, go back and look at Whitney's, watch the recording, because there are a lot of good lessons in there. And fire away the questions. We can give you specific, kind of ideas about various scenarios, and just keep trying. You just got to keep trying. And I know that you all do that, and it's just part of what we have to do. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yeckel, for that. That was awesome. Speaking for pre-meds and speaking directly to pre-meds was really great. I know as a pre-med myself, that really just hits home. I'm actually going to move on to Zoli White. Is he here?
Hi, thank you. I'm honored to be here. My name is Zoli White III. I don't know who put the lineup together. I think I might have to blame Whitney for that potentially. Unfortunately, I just kissed my son goodnight, and I have to follow what Whitney did, which I didn't see, so hope I can get the recording as well. But then Dr. Seguno and Dr. Yeckel, so many great points. I don't want to belabor any of the points that were shared, but I will touch on some of them and maybe add hopefully something original, something that will be beneficial to you all. But as Dr. Yeckel mentioned, there are so many different ways that people will write letters. And I've seen that a lot. It's definitely important to ask for a strong letter of recommendation, and hopefully you can read people's a bit, because they can give off certain mannerisms or things like that, but you really want somebody to write a strong letter. You don't want a lukewarm letter. You don't necessarily want, as he mentioned, someone to basically copy and paste, insert your name. You want them to know you. And so that is big on you for them to know you. You have to be kind of open to spending time with them, to being vulnerable in a professional way, of course, but they've got to know you, and you want them to know you. And addressing, I guess Whitney already addressed Alexis's question, but I was going to say as well, if you have that organic relationship, it seems that Dr. Yelko has with both Whitney and Sotonia, if I'm saying that correctly, I'm sure that once they're done with medical school, they can email him, or they'll, kind of keep that relationship going. And those are the kind of relationships that you want to keep, with the high schoolers that you're around, that with the, pre-med students that you're around, college students. Try to really build strong networks and friendships, because you don't ever know when those people will come into can benefit you, or just, you can connect other people. So it was great to see Dr. Sogunro's website, where you have medicine, law, STEM, all these other things. And so hopefully I'm not rambling too much, but I'll kind of insert kind of my story into this narrative. I went to Morehouse College. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, but I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta, and I studied chemistry and math there. But a lot of friends that I've had, some are on Wall Street, some are, kind of like mathematicians. One just got a job working with Facebook. Some are tech people. A lot of people are engineers and other things like that. And of course, I've got some friends that are, they're medicine preachers, so many other things. But basically building these networks and kind of making sure that collectively we all make it and help one another get there, I think is a message that's really important to me. That's why I go back when I could. I'm in Virginia now, so that's about 12 hours from home. But while I was in college, I would go back and try to talk to some high school students. And then we're in college, we're all trying to work together to make sure that we all get to those professional goals and different things that we want. And with that being said, if you're in high school, whatever stage you're at, really have fun, try to enjoy it, but really put your best foot forward. Because I feel like, as Dr. Segura was mentioning, sponsors find you. They generally find you, but for good reasons. And so if you're not putting, I think, that best foot forward, or other ways, they might not be able to find you or speak well of you. And it's a great thing sometimes to not even necessarily have to go and find someone, but having someone say, hey, I heard about your work that you did here and that you did this. And so trying to tie it in with the letters of recommendation as well. Sometimes people can be very busy and they might ask you, actually, can you write the letter for me? And I'll look at it. I'll change some things around. Sometimes I've kind of found that off-putting at times, but at the same time, that also helps you develop a skill of, you have to market yourself. You have to be able to, show the different things that and not be afraid about that stuff. A lot of things that I'll tell people often, I don't have the best test scores. My grades were pretty decent, and I did pretty well. But at the same time, I think you have to present yourself in such a way. I think a lot of times, and even so with COVID now, right, you might only be able to meet somebody virtually. You might only be able to put what you do on paper. And from that on paper, your goal, I feel like, is say, hey, I want to meet Zali. I want to meet Alexis. I want to meet Courtney. I want to meet, Alex. I want to meet these people. And then you have your opportunity to really shine. And so basically, honing your craft, honing your skills. If you're in high school, trying to talk to people ahead of you. If you're in college, trying to talk to people ahead of you, and just get a great understanding of what you're trying to embark on. And honestly, I can be one to tell you, I'm in the MD PhD program 6th year. I learn stuff all the time about stuff that I don't know, about how medical school is, about how things are changing because of COVID, all kinds of things. But I don't think I would know as much or be as connected if I wasn't necessarily willing to be outside of myself to network and all those kinds of things. So there's definitely work to do on your parts, but I think all the panelists are here to help. I'm here. People really want you to succeed. And as I was telling Whitney, it was great. It was a mutual connection that got me, I think, in ways on this call. But seeing younger students and people interested in their motivation helps me think, like, when I'm having tough times in lab, because there are tough times in lab, I'm doing bench research. I'm in pathology. I do research on red blood cell development. But, there's some times when it's just like, I don't want to go to lab today, or like, this is really tough. And like seeing you all's motivation, the drive, and being able to help somebody honestly helps and to inspire and help me to like say, no, I've got to finish this. I got to keep going on because I got to help people coming up after me. But also to do those things that I'm telling you all is putting your best foot forward. So with that, I will stop talking, and thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, that was awesome, Zoli. I totally agree. We appreciate your transparency with that for sure. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Tiara Nisha.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. So a little bit about my journey to medicine. It was very non-traditional. I met Whitney actually at the University of Virginia, where we both did our undergrad. I was an engineering student and in nanomedicine engineering, and decided after graduating that was not what I wanted to do. Enjoyed the research, really wanted to interact with people a lot more. I had actually knew I wanted to go into medicine early on, but decided to go into engineering because I wasn't sure, kind of thing. So I was just figuring it out. As a first generation student, I did a lot of figuring it out. And so when I got to senior year, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was a Gates Scholar. And so as a scholar, they will fund you for your graduate degree. And so that's how I got to my MPH. Ended up applying because I didn't know if I wanted to apply directly to medical school or if I should explore this. And they were like, they're going to pay for it. So I decided to do that. Did that for 2 years. I went to University of Texas, and there, research was everywhere in your public health program. They're emailing you. There's a project here. They really were interested in students, and so it was very easy to get on a project there. And I found my first mentor just by joining a project. I joined it as a volunteer, actually, and about a month in, they offered me a position, and I ended up getting paid for it. But that research, that PI of that project, it just fell into place, and we just became friends. She ended up writing me a recommendation for my medical school, which I decided I would apply to after my graduate program, because although I love research, it wasn't enough in terms of me interacting with patients and really being more individualized. So I finally circled back from my childhood dreams of becoming a doctor and got back to it, applied to medical school, and I started last year in the fall. And so I'm in my second year now. And if I have to add a little tidbit about mentorship, I'll just say this. Especially for me, a lot of my mentorship just came into place. For example, one of my mentors is my primary care physician. I was at my normal doctor's appointment and told him I was applying to medical school, and he immediately was like on it. Come to find out, he did his undergrad, his graduate school, and his residency at my institution that I'm currently at. And so it just literally fell into place. And I feel like those kind of things for me are divine connections. And so I was very, very grateful. But for example, I'm interested in cardiology, and at my university, there are not very many Black cardiologists. And so I was interested in speaking to a Black cardiologist to learn about their experience. So this is the first time I've actually had to seek out one in a way that I hadn't before, where it wasn't just fall into place kind of thing. And so my first tip is, I think Whitney mentioned some of it as I came in on her call, in terms of when you're emailing them or reaching out, is to be intentional about your email. So that includes saying, hey, I want you to be my mentor, or being very specific, I want to join you on such and such project because I'm interested in this research. And so I actually recently did this about a month ago. Actually, no, sorry, like 3 months ago, before a lot of like right in the midst of COVID or whatnot. It took a little bit of persistence. That's another one of my little habits, because a lot of times those people are very busy, and we know that. So I acknowledged that in the email, said, I know you're busy, but I would like for us to meet about this. And I think Whitney also mentioned this, it's wonderful if you have some kind of connection with them. So one of the people I ended up reaching out to went to the University of Texas where I got my MPH, and I kind of just like didn't even know. It was literally an email search and found out that that was a connection of ours, mentioned that in the email. So the first time I emailed, I didn't get a response. And I waited, didn't get a response. And so it might take you reaching back out, and it's okay. But don't take it personal. I think it says a lot about you and your persistence, and it'll be something that speaks to who you are and what you'll do and bring to the project. And so that's my number 2, is be persistent. Now, if they're not responding, then sometimes you might have to accept they're busy, and it's okay, move on. There's a lot of people out here willing to help. And my last thing is make sure you state what you bring to the table. Even if, I think some people mention that they don't have a lot of experience, you have something to bring to the table. And so identifying those skills are important. And like someone just said, being able to market yourself and say what you bring and how that can help the project, I think is very, very valuable, and will do you well. And I will be quiet now, and thank you.
That was great. Thank you so much, Anisha. All right, I'm gonna have Satonia go ahead and introduce herself and talk a little bit.
All right, so hi everyone. Just to start, I want to thank you guys for organizing this. And Whitney, your presentation was amazing. Definitely took most of the major points that I was thinking of, like right on to the presentation. So if you are able to rewatch this, I would definitely recommend that, because there were lots of jewels just spread completely throughout it. So I guess a little bit about myself. So I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I went to SUNY University at Albany for undergrad, and then went home for a bit, back to Brooklyn, and then did my master's degree at Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Then had one more gap year, and during that gap year did some teaching, some other things, and now I'm in my second year of medical school at Netter. So yeah, that's like a real quick, I guess, snapshot about me. In terms of research and projects, so initially when I came into medical school, so the nice thing about Netter is that we do have a required capstone. So I came in with the idea of, for my capstone, I'm going to focus on global public and community health. And I was all revved up. I had my project all planned out and ready to go, literally about to book the ticket. And then COVID happened in March. And I was like, okay, guess I have to change things around. I have to be flexible. So I basically had to transition my project from what I was going to do, which was a retrospective chart review in Abuja, Nigeria, and I had to transition it into a systematic review. And it's my hope right now that I'm actually able to do a 2-phase study so that I could still go to Abuja, Nigeria. We're just gonna keep our fingers crossed to see if I'm actually able to travel. But yeah, so now I'm working on a systematic review in the same field of study, which was specifically looking at pediatric pneumonia. And I was also fortunate enough this summer to be kind of very vigilant on people that were looking for help on different projects. So I was able to jump onto another paper that specifically focuses on endocrine disrupting compounds and their effect on acne. and just something that I wanted to learn more about, and I also was interested in. And I think that's also important, that not just kind of throwing yourself into a project just because it's COVID and it's like I can't find anything else, but you also want to have some interest there, and something that you can actually speak about, right, when you go in for these interviews, especially in residency. So that's also very important. So I basically wanted to, I know that you've had lots of jewels throughout this whole conversation, but there are things that I wanted to make sure that I was reiterating when I spoke. So one, mentorship, I feel like has literally changed the trajectory of my life. Being able to have mentors, and this is not just research, obviously, but just in general, having mentors that are aligned with your goals and your vision and the things that you want to accomplish can literally change your life. Why? Because especially if it's somebody that you know that's already in a position that you can one day see yourself in, or it's something that you know that they're passionate about, that you're also passionate about, that's the perfect person to be your mentor. But with that being said, you also have to be flexible to this idea of they have a very busy schedule, and you want to be able to kind of be malleable in that way, that you can kind of work with them to this like goal that you guys are both coming up with. And another thing I wanted to hit on, some of the mentors that I still have now, I met them in high school. So one of my, or no, when I think about it, maybe about 3 of the mentors that I still check in with regularly, follow up with regularly, they were all people that met me in high school. They knew 14-year-old Satonia, and they just decided, you know what, like, for whatever reason, they supported me and they kept pushing me, and I can always turn to them. And sometimes I'm like, and that's the nice thing about having a mentor, having that relationship that they can see your vision and you're not always explaining your vision, and you can kind of work towards a shared goal in where you want to get to. So with that being said, maintaining those relationships are very important. And I think there was a question in the chat about that as well. So one thing that I would suggest is you do have to find a balance between like being overbearing and being and following up, right? So again, you want to be cautious of like the fact that they are busy, they have a schedule, but you also want to make sure that you're also showing that you're interested, and there is an actual balance between that. And sorry, I saw a question. I don't know if that question was specifically for me, but yeah, there is a balance.
Okay, great. So Alex, I do want to I know that we have some questions that y'all submitted, but does anybody in the panel want to take Daniel's question about this circling back? I can always jump. Oh, good. Okay.
I think one of the big things that you have to do, Daniel, is you have to be persistent. So, you know, I told you I do a lot of clinical things with some of the students who rotate with me. A lot of them end up being very interested in surgery, but I kind of open up to them and say, even if you're not interested in surgery, you know, an interesting case is an interesting case, and people want to hear about it, and you can present them and take them very far. So sometimes we'll start a project. I personally am very good with trying to reach back out to people and say, hey, remember this? But some people are not, right? So what you want to do is kind of have, I'm a writer and I take notes. But if you've reached out to some people, create a list. And you know, even if it's just a written list, and you say when you reached out to them, date, and when I emailed them. So then you can give it some time, right? You don't want to maybe email someone every day or every week, but then I'll go back to that list maybe every week and I'll redo it. I said, okay, I haven't emailed so-and-so in about a month and I haven't heard from them. Let me email them back. So on that sheet of paper, or you can do it in a computer and do it in an Excel file, whatever way you want to organize it. But I have a list of who I've reached out to and when our last communication was and what our next plan was, right? So the plan was I'm supposed to get back with them with this, or they're supposed to get back with me with this. Kind of keep a written record, really just more for you so you keep things in track. So really how to circle back with them is to email them, but to also kind of reiterate what you talked about last time. And sometimes if it's been a while, you may not remember it. That's why I say have something written where you have a good recollection of what the discussion was. Personally, the way I look at it is if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen, in terms of, the EMR and charts and patient care. If you didn't write it down, you didn't do it, right? So same thing with this. If you don't keep the notes, you're not going to remember. Circle back and say, hey, Dr. So-and-so, or hey, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, back in March, we talked about, looking at these 3 possible areas for, the direction of our research in the, the discussion portion. I know I had mentioned this to you and you were thinking about these 2 areas. Have you looked into that anymore, or are there some new things that you wanted to talk about? So that way you're going to jog their memory. That's the biggest thing. Scientists, doctors, researchers, everyone, professionals, I should say. Professionals, a lot of times, like Dr. Nickel was saying, sometimes hundreds of people will contact him. So be very purposeful in your response, right? Not, hey, my name is John Smith, do you remember me? That's not the way to do it, because people may not remember that. Hi, my name is John Smith. I had spoken to you back in February. We met at this conference or whatever it is, and we talked about this topic. So put as much information in there to help that person jog their memory. And when you kind of continually contact them, not in an annoying way like someone had mentioned, more in a, oh, this person emailed me last week, I forgot it, but they emailed me again 2 weeks later, I won't forget this time, right? So have a systematic way of how you're going to contact them. Just make sure it's not every day, please. And make sure that you include a lot of specific details about your previous interaction, but also where you plan on going, right? What are you looking for? Like, how can they help you? Be specific with it.
Yeah, I think it's nice to be updated. I love it when people will email me. Some of my people in my lab are even, or here's a better example. One of the things I love to do is outreach, and I'll take a bucket of human brains and go talk to middle school or high school kids. And I've been mentoring a couple of high school kids who are now in college, and they update me, and now we're Zooming. And especially when it seems overwhelming, I'll say, let's talk. And there's so many misconceptions about med school and what you got to do and whatever. And I'll just we'll talk about it. It's also nice to be updated when you've written somebody a letter to know the outcome. I love it when I write a letter for an award and somebody says, Dr. Yackel, I got it. And I'm just thinking, great. It just makes me feel good. So I think it's nice to update people and let them know, what's going on. I think there are a lot of really good people out there who really want to see you do well. And I know some people are shy and don't want to bug them or whatever, but just, drop them a note. And, you might not hear back from them, but it doesn't mean they didn't read it, if you don't ask a question, and just follow up and try to keep that connection, because you never know where they can be really valuable. And sometimes, again, Dr. Seguno brought up sponsorship, which I think is hugely important. Sometimes you don't even know when somebody is sponsoring you for something. And I've done that, and they don't all know. And like Satonia and Whitney don't know. But I do it because I believe in them. And if they get it, congratulations, that's a great thing. So it's just always good to maintain those relationships.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Frankel. I'm gonna circle back to Satonia and see if she wants to go ahead and kind of finish up her spiel before we go into the rest of the questions.
Sure. I was basically done. But yeah, so in terms of, I just really wanted to drive home the point of, the value in maintaining those relationships. And actually, to add to what was just said, one thing that's been super helpful for me is sending out communications like within 24 hours of meeting with someone. So that's basically listing out like what was said in an email, or sending a calendar invite and listing out what was said. Hey, we went over XYZ today. We discussed, so next steps, we discussed XYZ. I'm going to work on da 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 da. Thank you again for meeting with me. And, you know, if you send out the calendar invite and everything, same time, it's already on their calendar pending, whether it's Google Calendar or Outlook or, you know, anything else. So that's also been helpful. But yeah, I was pretty much done. Thank you.
No problem. Man, there's already been so much great information from each one of our panelists. So I'm going to go ahead and move into some of the questions that were submitted directly to us, because we want to try to knock some of those out. And I'm actually going to direct them at different panelists, just in the interest of time. So the first question I have is, how does a student in undergrad / postbac find a research mentor? And with that, I'm going to start with Dr. Yackel.
So the question is, how does a student find, could you read the question again? I don't see it here.
Of course, yeah. So it's, how does a student in undergrad, postbac / postbac find a research mentor?
Yeah, well, it's putting in the effort. You know, emailing, and if they don't respond the first time, email them again. But it's important, again, and I think in one way or the other, it's been said a couple times, you got to be prepared. You got to do your homework. You got to be intentional. You understand what they're doing in the lab and why your interests align with theirs. And so I think that's pretty basic advice. You got to pound the pavement. And again, Whitney said something that I thought was really great. She said, you want to make them think that you're the only person you're contacting, in so many words. And it's kind of funny. We would, you know, my colleagues and I at Yale, there would be times when somebody said, did you get an email from this person? And like 6 people would say, yeah. And you would, you know, despite being a professor, you would think, oh yeah, I'm not so special. So you want to be a little bit strategic about it, you know, kind of find somebody with common interests and email them and write a good email, maybe have somebody read it. And if they don't respond, follow up, you know, be appropriately persistent.
Perfect. Tiara, can you talk a little bit about this as well?
Sure. How does the student find? Oh yeah. So I think first it's important to identify someone that you likely kind of models how you see yourself or where you're trying to go, because that will be most helpful for you to get in contact with them. I think for me, I found, like I think I stated before, I found one of mine because I had specifics on what I was looking for. So I wanted a person in cardiology. As a medical student, it was they are willing to help. As a undergrad or postbac, they should be as equally likely to help. But if not, I think emailing other people, it'll be fine. For me, when I reached out, they weren't responsive. So I agree, follow up, be persistent, and also utilize your other networks. So I also, at my university, we have a research office, and I went there and told them what I was interested in doing, and had them also looking for me, for people, for mentors that were doing the kind of research I was trying to do. And that they were basically looking for people while I was also looking, and they yielded or came up with a couple of contacts for me to reach out to as well. And so I think if you know some people, even if they're not in the exact kind of doing the kind of research you want to do, they might know someone. So I am really I'm very comfortable reaching out to a mentor or somebody that I know and being like, hey, do you know someone doing this? And if they do, they'll be like, yes, let me see you on this. Or I'll be like, hey, if you come across an opportunity, please let me know. And I've actually had a lot of people reach out to me with that kind of stuff. So for sure, email is the easiest way, and use your network.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Zoli, can you talk about this a little bit as well?
Yes. Finding a research mentor when you're in high school or college or what have you.
Okay.
And what's going on in the chat, really just showing interest, taking that step of saying, hey, I looked up what you did or what you do. I'm really interested in it. Sometimes it's weird. People want you to have experience, but how do you get experience without getting that first experience sometimes? So just really showing yourself as, serious, engaged, like, hey, I read a couple of your papers. Maybe you have a personal story related to their research, I have a family member with sickle cell, whatever it may be, but really kind of put your best foot forward, show that you're interested, show that you're kind of already trying to be in that pipeline. And I think a lot of professors and a lot of places really just love sometimes talking about what they do. So if you show that interest, they will really enjoy that and take that. But as they were saying, email, be professional, think about like windows of time if you haven't heard from them in maybe 72 hours, maybe just a follow-up email. But be persistent, cast a bit of a net, maybe not too big. Depending on where you are, local would be great, depending on the type of research as well. Clearly, if you're going to do some bench work now, you want to be at a local institution of some sort. But just be proactive, be engaged, know as much as you can what's going on, because people may have experience, right? And so if you have no experience, you want to go with something like, oh, I like biology, so I thought I should email you. Don't say that. That's it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that. I think that everything you guys said is really, really great. And with going off of that, we want to talk a little bit more directly about mentorship. So one of the questions we have is, what things should students know about their mentor before they meet him? So you find someone you're interested in, you reach out to them, they decide to meet with you. Now, what do you do? Dr. Sangunro, can you talk about that?
Yes. So one of the biggest things that you want to do is you have to basically create a situation where not only you help your mentor get to know you, but you get to know your mentor, right? You're going to research them and you're going to do that. Absolutely. You should, right? Just like you would research a doctor that you're going to, or research anyone, you should research someone that you want to be your mentor. But once you've kind of, even unofficially established that, hey, I'm looking for a mentor and I would like for us to kind of, develop some sort of relationship, then you want to move to the next step. So Tonya, is it okay if I talk a little bit about you, use as an example? So I was wanting to I had planned this community health fair that was going to take place, and everything got canceled because of COVID. That's kind of where the Do Influence got born. All the things I wanted to do with the health fair, linking up students that were pre-med, high school, all different ages, to different health professionals in an actual event where they would get hands-on experience, was something I planned for about 7 months. Had lots of sponsors. It was going to happen at my alma mater in New Britain, Connecticut. And literally, I got the flyers off of, printed hundreds of flyers, and got the flyers. They're in my car, and I get a call from my boss that pretty much, we're going into lockdown. We're going to have all these COVID units open. COVID is happening. Similar to Satonia. So I had all these items in my garage, and I mean like a lot of items, okay, that I had gotten, a lot of, educational pamphlets, toothpaste, toothbrushes, all these things I had donated. So I reached out to one of the students who had rotated with me, and I told her I wanted to do something, I wanted to kind of meet the SNMA of your school and kind of link up and kind of maybe see if I can donate these items to them, and maybe they can use it for some sort of event or we create something out of it. So then it led to Satonye emailing me and then calling me, and then we talked about mentorship, relationships, but also about creating this event. One thing that I think, at least the e-board of the SMA probably knows about is that COVID-19 relief fund drive through that's happening, was what I initially kind of talked a little bit to Satonye about. I kind of gave her my brainchild, and then she brought it into reality, literally. And it's an event that's going to be happening next month. So Satonye reached out and said, hey, I'm also interested in possibly surgery, definitely in medicine. I'm also looking for a mentor. And Satonye and I have actually officially started a mentorship relationship. And what we did was we said, for example, we have this upcoming week, we're going to actually be doing a little Zoom meeting so we can kind of, talk about less of the formality stuff. So last few weeks, we've been talking about the event and getting that all situated. So I said, all right, now that that's kind of on its way, let's sit down and let us kind of talk about what your goals are and look for ways that I can help her directly. Because every mentorship relationship is going to be different with your mentees. And so I want to look for the ways that I can help her the most and look for the areas that she needs the most help from me and I could, help her with that. So I think the big thing is actually having a conversation saying, hey, let's talk about what you need, what I can provide, and how we can go from there. So it takes a lot of work from both sides, but usually the mentee has to be a little bit more of the person that puts a foot forward and probably does a little bit more of the contacting. But that's literally like an in-time, real-life example of something that just happened in the last, 4 weeks?
That was a great example. I mean, that's spot on to what we're supposed to be doing. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Satonye, and thank you, Dr. Sigonero. I'm going to go ahead and actually, because we want to just value guys' time, and we really appreciate everyone that has been here, all the panelists for coming. You guys really are game changers in every way. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Whitney, and then she's going to make a comment, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so thank you. So again, I can't say enough what Alex said. Thank you guys so much. I mean, honestly, y'all gems, right? Shout out to y'all for being here. I want to see y'all back on the next webinar. I do just want to drive something home, and there's something that Erica said about this idea of what skills you have. Y'all, I'm telling you, it does not matter. It does not matter what type of skills that you have. You can make anything work if you are advertising yourself. I mean, you have to be confident in what you're bringing to the table. And to give you guys a real life example, I didn't get here just because I had a bunch of research skills, right? I told you, I ran into somebody who said they wanted 10 years of research experience. And so I went back and I went from high school and I worked my way for every job experience I had. And I gave them every experience I had, whether I was working at fast food, cutting somebody's grass, the skills that I gained in that. These are valuable skills. If you have an MBA, you can take that and use that to help healthcare systems do value-based medicine. It's these buzzwords of skills that you have that people want, and they just don't know that you have them. So you can't just come in and say, I have an MBA. No, you have a skill that helps you evaluate and make decisions that will help a financial decision that can help a healthcare system. Okay. So if y'all don't get anything else from this talk other than how important it is to be a mentor, I don't ever want y'all to think that you do not have skills that are applicable to whatever you are trying to do in life. You just have to find a way to market them in a way in which it is translatable to the person you are talking to on the other side, okay? So I don't ever want to hear y'all that y'all may not have the research experience. Everybody has had to evaluate something and decide whether they're going to do it. That's research, okay? And so I just want y'all to know that, and we can talk about this further, and I can send my email and hopefully connect with you guys with the panel. They're all great mentors. But again, wanted to be very conscious of your time. And so I just want to thank again the panelists. Thank you all for being here. If you have any questions, you should have gotten my original email. Let's connect. Let's talk about that. I would love to give a TED talk on and invite other people on how to market yourself, because as people of color, it is so important that you market yourself. If you guys already know the twice as good conversation, my mom had it at 3 with me. And so this twice as good idea, you start early, right? And so let's all help each other get where we need to get to, okay? Collectively, we all make it. So with that, I will let all of you enjoy your night. I hope y'all are as revved up as I am.
Please scan the QR code And give
Yes.
us
Oh,
feedback.
right,
We
right.
really
Look,
appreciate that.
I'm
Over
about
to
to
the left.
Moses, let my people go. Okay.
Yeah.
There, again, if you guys don't mind, just give us feedback. We want to make this informative for you and for you to get what you need out of it. Okay. So y'all be blessed. Keep up the work, and let us know if we can do anything for you.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Okay. I'll stop sharing. And close. All right.
Whitney, this was excellent.
Thank you.
Alex, thank you for co-hosting, but this was absolutely, positively excellent.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
why
you.
I do these things, and this is so much better than the ones that I'm usually a part of, and I'm totally serious. It was, you nailed everything, and yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys did a phenomenal job. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
More of a network, more people to be potential mentors for sure.
Absolutely.
Honestly. And I'm excited about looking up everybody at Netter, and what's going on up there. So really cool. Hope to be a part of some more of these sessions.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much, man.
Take care.
Y'all take care.